Well, there are some breaking developments on the ongoing scandal regarding the emails from then Secretary Clinton and the FBI. We're going to be joined in the next segment of the broadcast with Congressman Jim Jordan to deal with this situation, because this is basically a situation that has developed where the chairman of the committee was unable to view a number of these documents. There was heavy redaction. Chaffetz said that the new documents are so heavily redacted he couldn't even make out what they said. And then ask yourself this question: why were they so redacted if there was only, quote, 3 that were marked classified? So this kind of cuts against, forget the Secretary of State for a moment, it kind of cuts against the FBI's whole position on this entire matter.
Yeah, and this is, again, redacted for purposes of private review by a member of Congress, a chairman of a committee, chairman of the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, Jason Chaffetz, who, again, has security clearances. This is not to be released public yet. This was for his review in a facility. It's called so he couldn't just do this in his office, for instance. They didn't just send these over redacted. Even to see him redacted, he had to go to the Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility known as SCIF and review them. And in his own words, could not even make them out because of the amount of documents and the amount of words that were redacted. That does not jive at all with what Jim Comey and the FBI have testified to about the information in these emails.
So, Than, the idea here, of course, was that the information that was reviewed by the FBI was not so significant as to warrant a prosecution for gross negligence in the handling of information because, quote, only 3 were even marked classified. Apparently, that's not the case.
Well, Secretary Clinton's entire defense rests on that claim, Jay, that either it wasn't classified or it wasn't sensitive at all. But apparently it is so sensitive that even the top members of the committee, including the chairman, cannot review it. Congressman Jordan, who's going to be on with us in a minute, he has been to this SCIF many times. He can explain the process. Jordan is right. You can't even take documents out of this facility, and yet they're still so heavily redacted that they can't be thoroughly reviewed.
I mean, folks, I hope everybody listening to the broadcast or watching on Facebook and Periscope or ACLJ.org, listening on radio, understand what's going on here. They're trying to pull one on the American people. But guess what? We're following all of these leads. We're going to get into this fake Iran deal. Remember that? Now you got Russia and Iran. We're going to talk about that coming up. And we're in federal court against the State Department. So we're not just talking about it. We're taking action. We're also taking your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110. That's 800-684-3110. After the break, Jim Jordan, Congressman from Ohio, is going to be joining us on this issue. Then James Rosen on some unusual dealings between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation. Back with more in just a moment. Hey, welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. We've got a lot going on, but we are fortunate to have with us right now Congressman Jim Jordan. Here's the issue. The chairman of the House Oversight Committee said Wednesday night that the material related to Hillary Clinton's private email use that was provided by the FBI is so highly classified that he does not have the security clearance to read most of it. Congressman Jordan serves as a senior member of this committee. And Congressman, of course, this begs the question that we started this broadcast out with. If it was so classified that it's being redacted so that you all cannot see it, why did the FBI director downplay the significance of what was in this material?
No, it's a great question, and that's the irony of this. We have to treat it the way it should be treated. But, here she set up this private situation, the private server, and obviously didn't give the material the respect it deserved. But I think it's also deeper than that, Jay. I mean, she set this up, in my judgment, because it was to hide what was going on with the Clinton Foundation. That's why they did this arrangement right from the get-go. They wanted to make sure no one ever saw what they were doing. And these 60,000 emails, remember what happened here. They set it all up, and then when they were discovered, they said, we'll decide. We'll decide on the front end, her and her legal team. And they said, you get 30,000, and we're going to keep the other 30,000. And the ones they kept, they destroyed. And they went so far as to actually erase their actual devices. Some of their lawyers. So we know what they were up to from the get-go.
Congressman Jordan, we also have at the same time breaking yesterday, and I know Jordan wants to ask you about this too, and that is you've got this, looks like, and we're going to have James Rosen on from Fox News, our friend from Fox News, next segment, but you've got the situation where you also have the Clinton Foundation with the State Department dealing with land deals in Nigeria. So looking at all of this, as it looks right now, you all have asked through the committee for the FBI to investigate possible perjury charges. But let's focus for a moment back on, I think it's important, Congressman, on this idea that we were sold, the American people were told that there was no criminal violation of the law, according to the FBI here, no recommendation of prosecution because there was not a significant breach in the law. Now, you cannot even review the materials because it's so heavily redacted. So going back on that point, it seems to me that someone is not telling the truth here. It may be two people, maybe Hillary Clinton and the FBI director, but how could the FBI director get away with this?
Well, just to add more to that, Jay, think about this. He told us when we questioned him last month, when he was asked, did you look at her statement that she made publicly, and did you look at her statements she made to me when I asked her during the Benghazi hearing last October about her email situation? And he said, no, we need a referral. Now, come on.
Which he doesn't, by the way, under the law, of course.
Of course it's not. He could have looked at that. So he in essence said, I'm not going to look at what the subject of our investigation said under oath to a congressional committee when asked about the very subject matter that he was investigating. That's ridiculous. So that underscores that this shows right from the start and all the way through that there's a different standard for the politically connected like Hillary Clinton than there is for the rest of us. And that's the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Congressman, this process to go review this material, it's not surprising, but I would say this is unique to me when you review this. It's called the SCIF that you have to go to, the Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. Tell people, it's not like at your congressional office you're being delivered all these documents that are redacted. Nope. You're going to a secure location, and still these documents are basically so blacked out that you can't make out what the discussions were even about.
No, and it's kind of we dealt with this when we were with the Benghazi committee. You have to go to this facility. You can't take notes. If you take notes, you can't take them with you. So it's very cumbersome. Again, all good things to make sure we err on the side of caution when you're talking about sensitive information. But this is members of Congress. I mean, separate and equal branch of government.
Yep.
We get cleared. We get briefings from the executive branch all the time on national security issues. So sometimes I'm thinking, like, come on, these are members of Congress. Let members of Congress go in there and see what's there and why all the heavy redaction.
Yep.
Again, underscoring, I think they're trying to hide things.
Absolutely.
The Clintons have always been trying to hide things.
Yeah, well, I want to lay out the case here for everybody, and I'm going to take Bonnie's call here because I think it's important for everybody to understand what's happening for our audience around the country here. You've got Hillary Clinton gets off the hook by the FBI saying we're not going to recommend prosecution. That was after the whole thing with her husband going on the airplane, the former president, going on the airplane of Loretta Lynch. Our airplane, by the way, United States Department of Justice for the people. Then you have the FBI director saying there's not a significant, no prosecutor would reasonably bring a case. But yet when Congress asked for the FBI notes, they're so heavily redacted. The information is so heavily redacted that, in fact, they can't even make it out. Well, if it's that redacted, then it must have been highly classified information or discussions going on. So it shows us. But Congressman, we've got an interesting call coming in from Bonnie in Houston, Texas. Bonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, if Hillary Clinton was only using this one server for 4 years and all these things are so heavily redacted, and she said she didn't send or receive anything, then how is she actually doing her job? And can the Congress actually force Comey or Loretta Lynch to step down? Because obviously,
that's a good question. We've got Congressman Jordan on the phone here. You really can't make the FBI director. Congress doesn't have the authority to make him step down. But Congressman, Bonnie does beg the question here: what is Congress's next move here? What do you all do next?
We're going to look at the information, and I'll be honest with you, Jay. I'm not in Washington right now. I haven't had a chance to review. We're trying to get staff members in there and lawyers in there to review the documents and find out what's there. But I personally have not had an opportunity to do that. We got to see what's there. We got to have hearings. We got to draw attention to it. I mean, that's all we can do. The only other thing you can focus on is, and this is what we're doing. It's a different scandal. But you hold someone accountable and say they should be impeached like John Copston, and different scandals. So you could pursue that, contempt charge. There's those other things that could come later. But right now it's about getting the information and then having the hearings on it, make sure the American people understand what fully happened here.
Well, Congressman, we're with you on this. I appreciate the tenacity which you and the committee are going after this. I think the American people have been sold a bill of goods here. I think the FBI director should be ashamed of himself in this regard. James Comey, who I used to have a lot of respect for, but I saw the politics of that moment I think the entire country did, and now we've got your committee basically can't even review the information, and as Congressman Chaffetz said, it's so sensitive that he can't have access to it. Now, although the FBI said it wasn't that sensitive at all for the purposes of prosecution. Double standard, no doubt. Thank you, Congressman.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, we're taking your calls at 1-800-684-3110, 800-684-3110. We're not just talking about it here. I want to go to Than on this and then Jordan to comment as well. Than, we are going to work very closely. This is the American people have been lied to. This is a scam. There's a lot more here than we know. We're going to bring in James Rosen in the next segment of the broadcast, but there's a lot going on here.
Well, the American people deserve this information before they have to make a determination on who the next commander-in-chief should be, Jay.
I think it's right.
And, let's put to rest this. There is now no argument to be made that there is no sensitive information in this material because highly cleared chairmen of relevance committee cannot review it in a secured location. And, Jay, I would just say, listen, that's troubling enough, but we should hope and pray that our enemies don't have it because that same material, when it was unredacted, was on an unsecured server, and they sure may have had access to it.
And by the way, the Clinton Foundation believes they now have been hacked. They've hired a security firm because of their concern on hacking, and we don't yet have all the WikiLeaks documents have not been released yet. So there's a lot more here to it. But, Jordan, what this does as lawyers, we look at the evidence here, and you know what this says? You're hiding it, guilty as charged, and that you're not letting Jason Chaffetz, the chairman of the committee, have access to it, and it's so redacted you can't even make it out, then I guess it was very classified and highly sensitive material.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, so you hear the whole story from Congressman Jordan, the process. They're not even allowed to take notes. So a member of Congress elected by the people, co-equal branch of government, this is not the information, again, being delivered to their office with a lot of redactions to a staff member, so in case they saw it. No, they have to go to this secret facility into a room where they can write notes but not take them with them. So anything that they're looking through, these thousands of pages, they've got to just remember in their head. And even in that facility, heavily redacted. That does not make sense if there was nothing in this that was so important to our national security that a member of Congress is not allowed to read it.
You know, when you look at the situation, you could not make this up. The truth is, you could not make this up. Linda on Facebook says, "Why is none of this on the news?" It is actually. This broke yesterday. It will be on the news. It certainly will be on Fox News. I can assure you of that. By the way, coming up on the broadcast, on the next segment of the broadcast, is James Rosen, our friend from Fox News, who has broken another story involving the Clinton Foundation. You're not going to believe it. Now in the real estate business. We'll talk more about that. Do we have time for a call here? I think we can take one. Let me get Casey from Dallas, Texas. Hey, Casey, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, how y'all doing,
good,
man?
sir.
I appreciate everything
Thanks.
y'all do. Hey, I had a security clearance in the military, and, this stuff here is just driving me crazy. I don't understand how she's even viable to be a presidential candidate with all this scandal and stuff in her background.
Because, Casey, none of it is sticking. In other words, what's happening is the American people are going to vote for a president of the United States, so they need all the information. Our job is getting the information out. We give you a legal analysis. I don't understand. And I don't think Congressman Jordan understands, nor does Congressman Chaffetz understands, how in the world the FBI director could say this is not classified material, significant classification of top secret or secret information, classified information, when then he denies access to the committee chairman, so heavily redacted the information they can't even make out what it says. So you got to ask yourself, is the FBI in cahoots with the Clinton administration here? And I call it the Clinton administration because it sounds like to me that's how they were running the State Department. We've got a lot more ahead, including your phone calls at 1-800-684-3110 coming up. James Rosen. State Department sought a land deal with Nigerian firm. Guess who the seller of the real estate may well have been? Friends of the Clinton Foundation. Shocked? Shouldn't be. Back with more at 1-800-684-3110 in just a moment.